Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our new episode. This week we are talking about the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy. As I'm sure you might know, the remake of the original 2010 just came out in theaters. I did go and see the remake this last week, and it was all right.
Oh, you actually saw it?
Yeah, I went and saw it on Tuesday.
That feels like a bum decision, but
Why is that?
I don't know. You got 28 weeks later wasn't out. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. It was not, in fact, a bum decision to go see the live action version. Well, my problem is just like after watching most of these for the first time now, I just after watching the live action trailer, it just already feels like none of the like color and like the vibrancy of what makes I think these films like fun is not going to be in those. Like all these really cool, wacky cliffside buildings that they make, not even in the first one, but like as they get more and more dragons like joining their little like fucking colony, like
Hmm.
it just gets more and more outrageous with like each film opens with like an introduction on you guys are going to kill me with all these names that I'm going to have a hard time saying, but what's the name of like their hometown again?
Burke.
Forkshmere? Oh, Burke. Yeah. Um, but like each film opens up with like a little introduction on like Burke and the little community that's on it that they've built up, and each one progressively throughout the films just gets more and more like fucking absurd. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, literally by the time they get to the third one and they're sitting around the campfire, I think it was arguing about having to move Burke or like the idea of Burke to the Lost World. I'm sitting there, I'm like, why is anyone shocked that they have to? Did no one watch the same intro? Like, do you guys not live in this fucking city? It literally looks like a megalopolis if like that was fucking made back then, bro, with dragons involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think the going into these movies, it's you kind of have to like keep it in the back here that it's more like oriented towards like the younger audiences. Um,
Which okay, I would get that argument, which I've been sitting on for a little bit because I'm really kind of confused. More so, this is not like a complaint. This is me asking genuine questions. It's a kids' film. It's DreamWorks. It's PG, but the theme throughout all of these films is not only murdering animals and dragons, like just like to the bitter end, but it's just like killing each other. It like it gets into slavery, and it's not subtle about it either. You know how like most of the time, like children's films or like kids projects, they'll have like these underlying themes of um, children like being too young to
hmm
like not having the power to do anything, so they kind of feel imprisoned.
hmm
Um, I kind of lost my train of thought on that. I'm not gonna lie, but neither here or there. I'm starting to like regain it back. I was kind of confused at what audience the film was going for. I
I
might
mean,
be the only
that's
one because
fair. No, I
because
understand what you're
don't forget
saying.
too. This is me seeing a lot of these for the first time. Like the first one
Yeah,
I'd seen before,
yeah.
but the second and third, like I remember at the end of the first one Hiccup losing a limb. For some reason, I thought it was his arm, but it's his leg at the end of the film. And I
hmm
remember sitting there at the end. I'm like, this is a really sentimental value, but there's something really deeply disturbingly fucked up that the way they decided to end the film was an eye for an eye in a sense. And they joke about it too. They
Well,
joke.
it's not. I don't think it's not necessarily like done. It's not that like it was on purpose. It's just
No, no, it's not
um,
that. It's more so like it's. I think it does. I think I'm more so trying to describe that I think it does a good job at trying to juggle being a kids project but not being too much of a kids project, and I think that's where like
yeah.
a lot of these films kind of get jumbled. Like I think that's why the Spider-Verse films work really well, right?
hmm Well, I mean, it's DreamWorks too, and that's kind of. I mean, they started with Shrek, which I wouldn't necessarily classify as that as your standard children's movie. Like they're making dick jokes and stuff like that all the time. But I mean, I personally think I like these movies a lot more than I do like the Shrek movies. Um, but yeah. Anyways,
Let's talk about the first one a little bit more because
yeah, I wanted to first list off some important aspects of this movie, like in terms of like the production. The creative team leading this movie is Chris Sanders, and I hope I'm saying this dude's name right, Dean DeBlois.
yeah,
Um,
you got it right, Dean DeBloy.
but they're
DeBloy.
the co-directing team that did Lilo and Stitch for Disney,
Oh,
and I did not know that until recently because Dean DeBlois is also
didn't he do the
the
remake?
writer. Yeah, he's the writer director. He returned to be the writer director of the 2025 live action remake.
Wait, brother, isn't he just giving himself the same credit from this first fucking film? Like, is that even like a real writing credit? Like, did was there actually any writing in that film? Because from what
I
I heard,
mean,
it's almost a shot for shot remake,
I so
and
it's not necessarily.
it's like an extra 20 minutes
How do I
longer,
even
25
how do I
minutes
even
longer.
describe this? So it is pretty much the same movie, except for the fact that there's like every once in a while there will be a slight difference in like dialogue. Um, I don't think all the shots are the exact same, but I mean, I I watched I watched the first one literally right before leaving to go see the remake, and it was pretty obvious like from the get go, like, oh, this is just going to be the same movie, and it is for the most part. Like, yeah, I mean, it's pretty faithful to the original. It just minus a few lines of dialogue here and there. Um,
Yeah, I wonder with the remake. I mean, I'm. It's kind of hard to spoil it, essentially, I guess. But I get you can confirm something for me. I didn't really have. I actually really enjoyed this first one quite a bit. The one thing that I'd wish I gotten more of was the relationship between Hiccup and Astrid, and I was hoping they like explored that a little bit more because it feels like
um,
in this film, in the original animated film, it feels like she kind of just like switches on him once she finds out like his secret with Toothless.
so that was one of the couple of changes that were more apparent in the remake. Not in the way that you'd be hoping,
Ah,
but like
damn,
because they pretty much the chain of events is all the same, and so she also has that very, let's say,
dickish, off
quick
put.
quick change of heart, which is fine. Again, it's a children's movie, but um in the remake they like change her motivations, I guess, but they don't do anything with it, so kind of in the end it doesn't really matter. So that was kind of like the movie is fine. The remake, like, it's not. I like it's a remake, and remakes always struggle. Like, we had this conversation when we did the Karate Kid, the original, and then the 2010 remake. Actually, um, it's the same story essentially. It's just for some reason it's not as good. Um, like, the whole time I was sitting there, and I mean, I'm sure part of this is because I watched the original right before watching the remake, but it was very hard for me not to like compare the two instinctively and just be like, I kind of feel like this was better in the original. Like in the like you have that like very iconic cast of voices that really lend personality to the characters, and then you've got like kind of the most bland portrayals in the remake. Like, that was one of the main problems I had with remake, was that the characters felt very dull in comparison. Even like I think part of that's a directing issue because Gerard Butler returns to play Stoic in the remake, and he's also not giving it the same kind of vibe as I expected. But it's worse in term like the side characters I don't really care about because they're not that big a part of the first movie. But Hiccups especially is like really rubbed me the wrong way because Jay Baruchel has a very distinctive voice, and he also plays a lot of the line deliveries like very sarcastic, and I didn't get that from this new guy that they got. On top of the fact that he doesn't really, this might sound like a nitpick, but I think it's important to the character that he's very like scrawny and like wimpy looking, and I also didn't get that sense from the remake because part of the story is that he's very pathetic, in comparison to like the
Yeah,
your average
he's like
Viking.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid in like the
Yeah,
Vikings time.
yeah, and I was kind of missing that from the remake. And so, all of those things right off the bat, I'm just like, I struggled to get into it. As the story continues, it's the same story, so that at least helped. In terms of I could kind of like sit back and just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just be here for the ride. And I mean, it looks good too. Like the CGI is really good. The only other problem that I had with it was mostly that I had trouble with like the look of the scale of things, if that makes sense. Like a lot of like the scenes looked kind of like cramped in terms of like the set design, and I thought that was kind of weird because I'm used to seeing it in animation form where it didn't look like that. And so that was another thing that I was like, it's trying to be like this epic retelling of the story, but the scale of everything around them didn't fit that as well.
That
So
was what I was concerned with as I went through each film because it feels like each film just progressively gets bigger, whether it's like the battles and the dragons or just like the landscapes itself. Like I'm really afraid that the Lost World, because I'm pretty sure they've confirmed that they're doing the trilogy in live action, right? Or at least the second
there,
one.
yeah, at least the so far the only one that's been confirmed is the second one, and I mean, I don't know. I let me look up real quick how well the remake is doing. I mean, they felt pretty
Well,
confident in greenlighting the sequel already.
Well, anyway, my point is I already know this first one has a big budget. I just don't. I know it. This new one hasn't been making, I think,
Oh,
what
it's
they
already made back its
wanted.
budget.
Has it?
According to Wikipedia, it has already grossed $265 million on a $150 million budget. I mean, not including like marketing and the percentage
Okay,
that
but
the
I think
theaters
that
receive.
goes to what like your issue is you don't feel the space. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You don't feel this world around you like you do in this first one, because I think that's what it does really well is just building this world around you and putting you in this really vibrant, and it's a witty but kind of harsh reality. Like I don't know
hmm
how else to put it. Like there's a lot of just idiots, but then there's a lot of stoic people. That when I looked up the IMDb's for this, I read the description or the bio, the synopsis for this first one, and it says a hapless young Viking who aspires to hunt dragons, and I instantly got mad at that because that's not what it is.
Wait, this
That's
is on the
actually
IMDb.
yeah, that's what it says on the IMDb for the synopsis because that's exactly like the. I find it funny because this was probably someone who'd watched the film once and didn't understand it,
Well,
and
yeah,
just
because
put
I
it up
think all
there.
of them are user
Yeah,
like.
they're like user open, like anyone
Let
could
me see. Where is the synopsis?
publish.
Oh, you mean the log line? Yeah,
Yeah.
hapless young
Um.
Viking. What does hapless even mean? Oh, unfortunate.
Anyway, going back to your point though with the cast, I didn't realize who was in this between. I knew Burchell and Gerard Butler were in it, but I forgot Jonah Hill, Kristen Wiig, America Ferrara, Christopher Mintz-Plasse were all in this film, and then each one just
Yeah.
gets bigger. And then David Tennant plays Spitlout, which I thought was like, what, bro? What is going on?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember. I know who the character is, but I don't remember him
I
saying
don't
a
think he
line of dialogue
speaks.
in
I don't
any
think
of
he even
these
speaks.
movies.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I saw them like, dude, what? But that's cool. They just
Yeah.
use like his look.
No, they don't use his look. The dude looks nothing like David Tennant.
You never know, bro. They just like morph the eyes a little bit.
Well, it's funny. It's funny that you brought that up because um, I read an interview that the director of the remake, um, he said that he recast that role because he couldn't see David Tennant like with the proper physique for the role. So I can guarantee you they didn't do it. Like it's not, he doesn't look like anything like the character. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the cast is pretty stacked. I think it's a good thing that, at least for the side characters, you didn't immediately like recognize them, because otherwise it kind of like ruins the fun of it, of like,
Well, back
they
in the
kind of
day
disappear into the
though,
characters.
back in the day, these people weren't big. Like Kristen Wiig wasn't big. Jonah Hill.
I mean, I
Jonah
think she
Hill was
was. This is
relatively
what,
big.
2010.
Yeah,
I
Kristen
think
Wiig
some of
was.
them were like, some of them had at least, were well known for
American
like their comedic.
Ferrara was big at the time. Jay Baruchel, however you
I don't know how
pronounce it.
to spell. I don't know how to say his name. I don't know if it's like, if you
I thought it was
pronounce the sh,
Baruchel.
or if it's with like a cuss sound, like the ch in
Yeah,
his name.
but he wasn't big at the time. Like I know who he is. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but I think at the time he wasn't very big.
I don't know. I feel like he had already been in quite a few things already,
Let me
that
see.
like he was known for. Um, but anyways,
She's out of my league. Night at the Museum. Oh, that's right. He did Tropic Thunder. So yeah, he was
mhm,
pretty well known. Forgot he was in Knocked Up. He played.
yeah.
I haven't seen $1 Million Baby, but he was in Almost Famous. I didn't know that. I don't remember him in that.
But yeah, I mean, I think they all suit the role. And of course, all of them returned, except for what's his name? T.J. Miller wasn't in the third one.
You know why,
Uh,
right?
I unfortunately do. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say when I looked at the cast for the third one, I'm like, oh yeah, that. So this
Yeah.
was the film that came after.
Well, I think they had brought him back, but then while they were like making the
Recording.
movie, like, yeah, like recording stuff, those allegations came out and they recast him. And I mean, the dude who they recast him with sounds very similar.
Honestly, I really didn't even
So
notice.
I
I'll be
noticed a
real.
difference, but when I was first watching it, I was like, "Oh, I didn't immediately grasp me that they had recast him. I just assumed that his voice had like naturally changed, because there's like 4 years in between every one of these movies. Um,
Yeah.
but
Well, no, that's the thing. The second one takes place 4 years, and the third one's only a year after the second.
yeah, but it took like 4 years for us to get that movie.
Oh yeah, each one took 4 years. I thought you were talking about
Yeah,
like
because The
in the
Hidden World came
film.
out in 2019,
Yeah, and
and
the one
then
before that came out like
20
2014, 2015.
yeah, 2014.
Yeah, so you waited a long time, which that was. This is my thing. I really enjoyed the first one. I liked the third one, but then the second one just kind of feels like it meanders in the middle. Like I enjoyed it, but there was nothing to it. It was just the first one rehashed, just in a
I feel
lesser
like the third
way.
one is a lot more like a rehash of the first one than the
Really,
second
I thought
one.
the second one was more of a rehash than that. With like, I could not deal. Like, I couldn't stand the family dynamics and like personal drama in the second one. Like I thought it was weird when the mom revealed herself in the second movie. I sat back and I'm like, really? Am I supposed to be shocked at this? Because like I thought back, I'm like in the first one they really only mentioned the mom once or twice, but not in a way that makes you think like you know when you like watch a movie and they mention a character, but the way it's like directed, framed, and all that gives you like an insinuation that this character might not be what this character's telling us at this current moment. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, but I think that works to this movie's like advantage because I mean, obviously, I know why because they didn't know, but like when they were making the first one, that she was actually alive. But I think that's why the twist works because you're not expecting her to be alive, if that makes sense.
Well, maybe my thing is because it feels like they don't pay off much of the mother stuff. Like if like in the third one at the very least, or as a whole, because from my understanding is like the mother and Hiccup, they don't have powers, but like they're able to like deeply connect to dragons on like a level that people aren't able to do.
I mean, I think it's just they're more open minded and empathetic, like
Which
which
is which
I kind
which
of
is
prefer that over them just being like the chosen ones or whatever. You know what I mean? Like
I
it
mean,
makes
I
it
get that,
more
but it's just a
interesting.
weird. It's just weird for someone who's never seemingly had known this power, or not power, but experience with a dragon before, and then she just gives up her entire life and just refuses to believe that the father could like reverse his opinion, because in
I
that
mean, it
first
takes
movie
like
he
20 years for him to do it.
yeah, but when it doesn't take him long to come around once he's put the like have the cards put in front of him. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like once people introduced the idea to him in the first one about instead of killing dragons, we befriend them. It's just weird. I don't know. It feels like she didn't even give it one effort. Like if the movie gave us some kind of conflict where she brought it up to the father and she ran away or something because he was calling her crazy or like delusional, but like I don't know if that's too much for a kids film. But at the same time, they're like straight up murdering like fucking dragons and shit. Like you straight up see these things get limbs cut off. Like it's not like graphic, but it's cartoon violence, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of that is just again they weren't planning on doing like a second one like that. And so obviously in making the second one they kind of had to retcon things. It does I like some of it like I see what you're saying cuz like,
It just feels
it is
weird. I'm not saying like it's a major complaint.
no, but I mean like it is pretty convenient that
His mom just like
one
lives in this
well,
fucking
yeah,
ice
the
dungeon.
mom lives and she's also a dragon rider, and she had this opinion when she was still living at Burke, and all of that is very convenient, and it doesn't necessarily line up with the things that were told or were shown in the first one. But I mean, again, I think the reason it doesn't bug me too much is that it's not supposed to be very like I don't want to say consistent, but it's intended for a younger audience who aren't like that's not really things that they care that much about. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I get that, but at the same time, like, come on, bro. So, like, kids aren't stupid. Like, at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like, I know they're gonna not sit there and like critically look at it like we do, but like I think more my issue is they had the opportunity to try and not fix it, but make it work more in the third one. But it
Mm.
feels like they abandoned those ideas even more in the third one, which I don't mind.
Well, see, that's why I don't like the third one as much. Like, I don't get me wrong. I think all of these movies are good, and I still like the third one. But my problem is that
I have to log the
they
third one. You
they
reminded
don't
me.
like pay off a lot of those things. Like, the mother kind of becomes like a
A nothing character in the
yeah.
third
She's
one.
like she's literally just in the background, and like she's a part of a couple jokes, but that's kind of it. And a lot of like story threads kind of get dropped in favor of Toothless and like his romance with the Light Fury, and
Yeah.
then Hiccup becoming the yeah, kind of like becoming the leader or whatever. And that's what that to me is like, because the third one feels like a lot like a mishmash of the first and the second movie, because again he's like struggling with like leading everyone and accepting his role, and that's the only problem that I have with that movie. And yeah, I agree that it doesn't necessarily like wrap up all of the story elements that well, or like going in from the immediately from the sequel to the third one.
Well, to kind of hitch off like how you feel towards the third one, that's kind of like how I feel in the boat of the second one, because it just really bugged me once the father found out that she was alive again. Like that whole cave scene really irked me once he died, because it feels like no character is like ever truly mad at one another. There's no conflict between any character. So when he does die, I didn't really feel anything, or I didn't feel any emotion for a character that I really enjoyed coming out and cared about from the first film.
Mm.
You
What?
know, and
Because
be,
there was like,
because because like they killed him off so early, and not
I
only
mean,
did
it's not
they,
early. It's like the second act of the movie.
it's end of the first going into the second. It's like that transition point. I still
No,
think
it's
that's
more. Well, that's more like the end of the second act, though.
it was like 35 minutes into the movie.
That they kill
Anyway,
Stoic. No, it's not.
yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, brother. It does not
Yeah,
happen that late.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not,
Bruh,
bro. I'm
literally
telling
after
you,
Stoic's death, they immediately
brother.
go into the final, the climax of the movie.
No, they don't. They have a massive fight, then they stop, and then Toothless and White Dragon. I forgot the name. No, White Fury. Fucking awful name. Um, they both get captured,
That's in
and
the
then they
third
fight
one, dude.
again. It is. Yes, it is. In the second one, he gets like possessed.
Mm-hmm.
The third one, they get captured after like the big fight after Stoic's death.
Wait, what?
Oh my gosh, brother.
Wait,
Oh, dude,
say
I'm
that
fine.
again.
I said that backwards.
Okay.
Neither here or there. I doesn't matter when it happened. I just think they could have added more levity, like a little bit more gravitas to like his death. I don't think it worked in the favor that they wanted, because I felt no emotional weight. I didn't think he just accepted his wife after she just straight up ditched him. Like, bro, she's going through a laundry list of fucking things she's apologizing for, and dude's just straight like, it's okay. I just want to bone you. He
Okay,
bro
it's
gets
not
on
like
his
that.
knees the next morning and is just like, "Let's get remarried, baby. I fucking love you." Even Hiccup just is just like, you know what? Yeah, mom, I get it. I love dragons so much I would ditch my family as well, or I would never like try to make my way back to them. I it just feels weird that there's no consequences for any of the characters in this film outside of Toothless and Hiccup in their relationship, which is the one thing you do want, but everything else just kind of falls flat in terms of like the
Well, I mean,
emotional aspects.
I feel like there are consequences in the fact that Stoic does die like immediately afterwards, because
It was a bit
like,
of a cheesy death though. Like, bro,
I mean, I don't know about that. I mean,
Fuckface
I
could have
think
jumped out of the way
the
himself.
way that I'm thinking about it, well, there's okay. If we're gonna be nitpicky about stuff like that, like a nitpick that I have about the first one is that Toothless and Hiccup could have easily gotten away without anyone getting captured or getting hurt.
No, you
When
right.
during that that final test thing.
But hey, bro, you could give it to their just young adolescent teenagers. That's the excuse, Leo. Just suck
Okay,
it up
that
and deal
isn't
with
that still
it.
the excuse in How to Train Your Dragon 2, because he's not that much older. Like he's like what,
Okay.
20? He's
He's
20.
got to be, right? He's got to be like
So
20,
he's so
21
his brain
between the
hasn't
second and
developed yet.
third.
He still doesn't know these things. Literally the
Hey,
whole plot of the movie is that he wants to, explain to the main bad guy that dragons are kind. Like I don't know.
dragons don't want to hurt us, guys.
I think that it works for me because you know they set up that the motivation behind um his mom, you know I know she doesn't necessarily leave, but like not coming back, And then also we see, that I'm sure after 20 years, Stoic has kind of would get over the fact that, especially knowing now what he knows, like with his son being able to, like, uh, help them coexist with dragons.
I just
But
find it
I feel
crazy
like
to see
I
what.
feel like it doesn't need that. It doesn't need to be that, like, deep in order for us to understand and like appreciate, the relationship between the two characters. Um,
I don't know. I just think it's crazy that Shoddy was able to like control all them and still chose not to like prove her point. But that's neither here nor there. Like, bro, she
well,
she she
I think that's the
fully
whole
trained
point of
like
the movie,
20
though.
fucking dragons, bro.
I think that's the whole point of the movie is that these, two older adults, didn't know how to communicate with each other, and then, the younger generation is able to, change all of that and put all of that aside and figure out how to coexist with each other.
Yeah, you got something way deeper than I did out of that
Well, that's
because
because you're just looking at it like on a surface level. You know what I mean?
I just don't know. Like, I don't know how much more like. I think what you're saying is a stretch already. I don't think it's that deep. I'll be honest. I think you're giving the writers too much credit. And that's not me trying to bash the writers. They're like,
I mean, I agree that, the second and the third, like, as you go down the list of movies, like, the first one is like pretty much almost perfect. The second one is still pretty good, but, not the same level. The third one less so, and then the remake is, meh. And so I agree that, there's issues that I have with the sequel in terms of how it retcons things, and the whole thing with like the alpha stuff. Like, we kind of see the Red Death at the end of the first one is kind of like that. I think Astrid explains it as like a beehive mentality, like that's the queen dragon. But
yeah,
then all of a sudden in the last two, we're introduced to this concept of like the alpha, which is a very different concept. Um, and so and then yeah, the whole thing, like, that's the problem, is that the first one is like so tight that in the second and third one they struggle to like add these, like find the connecting pieces to, or the connecting points to add all these extra pieces onto it. But I think it still, in the long run, it still works. Like, I still think this works as a trilogy. The second one is exciting in its own, right, and the third one is mostly a sufficient ending to the trilogy, even though none of them are probably as, reach the heights of the first one.
yeah, I agree. And I think you could tell they got weighed down a little bit by trying to figure out how do we make this world bigger and better.
Yeah.
Because, like, I do think some of the ideas are cool. I just think they like this just kind of goes for the second and third because I don't feel like they did too much by introducing too many dragons in the first one. I think by the time you get to the end of the second one going into the third, I completely forget who's dragon, what dragon's which, like what dragon can shoot this fucking fireball and like teleport there. Like all this other shit just started getting lost to me by the end. That I'm like, dude, how the fuck are kids keeping track of this shit?
I definitely feel like it's easier in the first one because you have that like core group of like five dragons. You have the two-headed one, the one that Ashrid rides, the one that sets itself on fire, and then like the Night Fury. But I understand going into like the second one why they had to add a lot more, because they wanted to like distinguish between them, because otherwise you just have like a bunch of the same looking dragon flying around.
Well, see, that was my issue because I still feel like I got that though because each film just ended with an even bigger dragon from the last boss fight from the other film. Like each boss fight dragon in each film just progressively got bigger with just like a different boss ability. Like the first one was just a big ass motherfucker who could like what was like his was his ability to like just be able to like have the dragons bow down to him.
The
right?
in the first one.
Yeah, or was he just didn't have any
I
power
don't think
like
it had
abilities?
anything. I don't think
He
it
was
had
just a big
anything.
fucking dragon,
Yeah, it
right?
was just really big,
And then the
and
second one, they had like that spray, or he had like that hypnotizing ability that brainwashed them.
yeah,
And then the third one just kind of was fucking crazy. And I
the
think
third
that
one
was one.
doesn't really have like a main dragon
It
antagonist. It's just
it's just a bunch of different dragons like clustered, and that's
mm,
what I kind of find boring. It's not a big dragon, but it's just one giant swarm of dragons that make like this one big dragon, and it just kind of got boring to me. Like I don't know how to say this without the comment sounding stupid, but the film got too cartoonish. I feel like I don't know how else to put it. Like I like the world that they built in the first one, but it just got too corny and too cheesy by the third one that I kind of was just like, okay, I feel like we're at the end of this because it was a totally different world vibe and look and feel than what the first one and even the second one was. That I was kind of like, okay, this is where the films aren't starting to become made for me. It's once you start getting into like there's like straight to DVD. Like that's why I kind of hate the Lost World title so much. It feels like a straight to DVD title name a little bit, and it's
mm,
kind of got that. It's kind of got like that aesthetic to it a little bit as well. Like I don't know what
yeah,
it is about it. Like it's not because it was released in theaters. It had the full budget, but a lot of it feels like a straight to DVD film or straight to like VOD for me. And I'm not
yeah.
saying that
I
as
get that.
like a bash towards the film either.
I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons why the third one isn't my favorite because I feel like the conflict is a lot less clear and um like tightly written as the first two because in the first one you have like him sort of like him balancing his relationship with Toothless and then trying to play the part of Viking with his father and all of the rest of them. And then in the second one you have the very clear like antagonist of um Drago Bloodfist, and sort of like wanting to like protect the dragons that they've started to learn to coexist with. But then the third one, it gets really muddled because you have so many different things going on in the background. You have Toothless and the Light Furies sort of like romance. You have Hiccup trying to lead, or be the chieftain of Burke, and then you have like the main conflict, which is um, what's his name, Grimmel, hunting Toothless, and but he's not. But there's more to it even then because he's working for the conquerors who want to capture all of the dragons and make a dragon army similarly to the main antagonist of the second one. There's too much going on, but like it doesn't feel like a lot even happens in that movie for me personally. But I think it kind of makes up for it by the sort of sentimentality of it. But I understand what you're saying. Like that's kind of one of the reasons why I don't think it's as good is because it does feel like they were kind of losing steam on the series. And I am glad that they stopped at three. Um,
Yeah,
because
God bless, bro.
I know for a while there they were planning on doing they I like they Jeffrey Katzenberg, the one of the founders of DreamWorks, he said in an interview like prior to the release of the third one that they knew that it was at least going to be a trilogy, if not more. And I like the decision. Like Shrek kind of got a little too much, like overbearing
I'm
with.
not looking forward to the new one. I'll be honest. I think they're stretching, but that's just
Yeah,
me.
and even like Kung Fu Panda, like I like the Kung Fu Panda movies, but I don't
Only
really. I
seen the
like after the
first.
third one, I was a little like over it, and it's a
Didn't they
very
make a show
similar,
too?
huh?
Didn't they make a show for not only Kung Fu Panda but also How to Train Your Dragon? Or am I
Yeah, that
just
was
like
what I was
fried?
telling you earlier. There's like several seasons of How to Train Your Dragon, like on television. The one that aired alongside like the Kung Fu Panda one was Riders of Burke or something, I think it was called. And then it
Yeah.
was on like Cartoon Network for like 3 years, and then it moved to Netflix for the majority of it, the rest of its run, and it had like a different name. I only caught a couple episodes of those things. They were all right. I don't remember anything that much about them though. But at least with like How to Train Your Dragon, like a lot of the cast came back to voice those. They're like reprise their characters in the television stuff, and I'm pretty sure it's still like that's at least the original iteration is still canonical. Like it takes place in between the first and the second one.
Yeah, I agree. I think the problem is the first one's just so much better than the
Yeah.
other two that it just stands in its own little corner. And then
Hmm.
the other two were just kind of like fighting each other for like which one's the second best.
Or which one's the worst?
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, the remake might take it after I see
No,
it.
I know. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the remake is worse than the sequels by a long
That's
shot.
really disappointing because after watching all three of these, I'd really hope that the remake at least try to build a better foundation on Hiccup and Astrid's relationship because I think they do. Like, even though I complained that the flip in the first one for her was a bit sudden, I think the first one definitely builds their relationship out the most of the three. Because in the second one, they're pretty much apart for most of the film, and she's with like the little side gang and
Yeah,
and even in the third one she's not really with him much, and when they are, they're just kind of just having this playful funny banter back and forth about like how Hiccup's like hiding off on this cliffside because he doesn't want to deal with whoever the fuck um
Gobber.
Stoic's Gobbard. Yeah, I can remember Stoic's like friend's name.
Yeah,
Gobert
Gobber the
Gobbard.
Belch.
Gobbert the Belch. Um, that's what like their relationship felt like after the first one was just two witty banter things. Because bro, when they got married at the end of the third one, I was genuinely shocked. I thought they got married between the first and the second. I thought they were
No,
married
that's
in the
like part of
second
the
one.
that's part of the conflict is that Gobber wants them to get married, and then they're like,
I
no,
must
it's
have
not
totally
really.
missed that. I remember them mentioning it briefly at the beginning of the third, but then that just quickly goes away. It just becomes such a behind the
Yeah.
scenes problem that,
Hmm.
and I think that's the issue with the second and third one is a lot of the things they build up in the beginning they don't really have payoff to, and
Yeah.
they not really payoff, but they don't really build up to it if it does have payoff, right? And I don't know. I
I
just
mean,
know I'm going to be disappointed.
I think that's the thing that works so much in the first one is that a lot of like the interpersonal relationships are so key to the main conflict of the story that you don't really get in the next two. I'm not holding out much faith that the second and like when they eventually, when the How to Train Your Dragon 2 remake comes out and then the eventual How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World comes out, that they're going to be any different from the original, like that they're going to tell the story more efficiently, because I think the remake of the first one isn't, you know it's not an improvement on the original, which not that it needed much improvement, but it's also kind of just more of like a bland retelling of it. um and the because the director directed all of these, like that's the majority of his career is just dedicated to How to Train Your Dragon.
It is literally
and
his career, guys.
and so like yeah, I mean, outside of like Lilo and Stitch and
God help his soul for
Sigur
that one.
Rós documentary, like these are the only movies that he's done. And I don't mean that as like a bad thing, but like it's not a bad thing for the original ones, but in terms of like the remakes, it kind of feels like he's gonna play it too close to the original in a way that I don't think is going to work, because I know it's a big debate on like remakes in general and like, oh, should they exist? Because like I saw something in like a review or something, like it was pointed out that as much as the Disney remakes suck, at least they have a more of a purpose in terms of like the intent is to, I mean, aside from like the Lion King, but the intent is to reimagine them in live action and update, you know, some of the things that haven't aged too well. But with How to Train Your Dragon, it's like these movies, are beloved and they're more recent, and like there's,
There was nothing about your criteria that fit this, so why touch
yeah,
it?
and then you have just the thing of like, well, for people who grew up watching the originals, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna watch the remakes, and it's just gonna be the same story. So you might as well just be better off. That's the problem, is that the remakes can't win, because if you go in and the remake is like really bad and it has nothing to do with the original version, then you're gonna be disappointed because you might as well just watch the original one. But then if you go in and watch a movie that is essentially the same movie, then you're also going to be like, well, I might as well just watch the original. Like, it kind of takes the fun out of the movie going experience. And there were things that I liked about the remake, like the CGI was pretty good, and yada yada yada. But I just couldn't get on board with the fact that it was the same story, just told slightly more blandly. But yeah, I think the first one is probably the best one. Um, and there's a lot of things that went into like the production of these movies that I really appreciate. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but Roger Deakins is listed as a visual consultant on like all of
Oh, I
them,
didn't. No way.
and so he contributed mostly. I think his biggest contribution to like the first one is that he helped them with like the overall cinematic feel of the look of the film, as well as like the lighting. And something interesting is that, so obviously this is based on a book, um, and I think there's like 12 or 13 in the series.
I didn't know
But
that.
these movies, I mean, the as far as I know, the second and third one have nothing to do with
Oh,
the book
okay.
series. But the first one is a loose adaptation, if you can even call it that. Like, the book is so different, but I think it's interesting that originally they were intending to make a very faithful adaptation, but the reason that they didn't, like, that they went away from that, was because they were worried it would lean too heavily toward like the younger side of like the children audience.
Yeah.
And so they changed it to make it more accessible so that they could get like it would be more profitable that way.
Interesting.
But I think that's what works about the movie, is that it's, like you said, it balances sort of like the more child cartoony stuff, at least the first one, with like the more sort of like mature themes. But yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of that first one is about him essentially chopping the head off a dragon. Well, like
I
him
mean,
building up
no,
that courage. Yeah, like bro, that's what they train up to do. Like that's their
well, no,
whole
yeah, I
ceremony
know
for
that's not
like.
what I mean though. I mean like in terms of like the deeper meaning of it. Like
No, I know.
I don't mean that
Yeah,
like it's every, like, the Vikings are and the dragons are at each other's throats and stuff. I mean in terms of like, you wouldn't expect a movie like this to have that, I don't know, I guess like more mature mentality in terms of like what it all means, and be able to market itself as well to like all ages.
yeah, I absolutely agree. And I just want to say, I hate that what's his name joins the second film. The guy from Game of Thrones. Why am I
Kit
blanking? Kit
Harington, why?
Harington. Because like his character just like joins and then disappears for like half the second movie and the third film, and then he just joins back at the end. His
I mean, I like
character's
him.
so,
I like him in the second one because he's kind
he's
of
such a pointless character though. I don't
yeah,
know. That
I
that was I just wanted to mention that because that was just something I was thinking in my head the whole time watching this. Like, I was
mm.
like, bro, why the fuck is this guy here? Stop wasting your time on this. Like, use it to like build up the family dynamics. So like, have a scene with Stoic Hiccup and his mom. Like, I don't know,
Mm.
something better than fucking this. I don't need to watch this dude just like turn on them.
Mm.
Like that's really all it is, and he just becomes like the character for a laugh. But he's not even that funny. But I
Yeah.
digress. I digress. Um, do you want to rank the films?
Yeah. I'm gonna let you go first, though.
All right, I would do one, three, and two.
Hmm.
I would do one, three, two as like
How did you
one being
rate
the
them?
best. So I gave one a 4 out of 5, three a 3 out of 5, and a two 2.5 out of 5.
Mm.
And I lean a little bit of that too because I didn't bring this up before because I figured I'd just like talk about it towards like the end right now. I feel like the animation also gets a massive upgrade in the third one compared to the second one. The second one just kind of and I usually wouldn't say that, but like it's 4 years, and between 2010 and 2014, like the 2010s was a super innovative time, and for you to have like the same looking animation between the first, which was honestly, let's be real, worked on in 2007, 2008,
Hmm.
right? So work on 2007, 2008, 2011, 2012. They started animating for the sequel, maybe. I don't know. I just think it could have looked a little bit better because honestly, I thought it looked a little bit worse than the first one. That might also just be me, but I also thought the third one was a massive visual upgrade. Like at least in the beginning when they're hijacking the boats or whatever they were, and Hiccup lights up the sword, like that fire animation just looked fucking gorgeous. And
Mm.
I can tell you, I didn't say a single thing about any of the graphics in the second one, but that's just like a minor thing. Overall, I think that the second and third one are kind of fighting at each other's throats the entire time. I did just give the third one that advantage because of the visual upgrade, and it made it for like a better watch when it came to like the action and all that for me. um, I just can't get over a lot of the character decisions in that second film. I really can't. It bugs me to a certain extent. It really does. Um, I can't really talk about a lot of the relationships throughout the films either because I don't think any of them outside of Hiccup and Toothless, which at least is the shining spot, which like I thought the ending was at least really nice to the third film for the series.
Mm.
But outside of that, I feel like a lot of the character relationships are kind of mismatched and just mangled all over the place. None of them really did much for me. So when you said that complaint about the live action, I wasn't shocked that they made them worse. Um, but yeah, there you can't beat that first one. That first one's a really good film.
Yeah.
That first scene when Hiccup and like Toothless first see each other, iconic. But obviously, I think everyone knows that. They clearly know that. But yeah, I'm curious to know what you think about all three of them and how you rank them.
Um, I think I'd rank them in in the order in which they were released. The first one obviously being the best, the second one slightly less, and then the third one again slightly less. Um, yeah, I think I'd probably give the first one a 4.5 out of 5. Like it's very close to being like perfect, but there's a couple of things that I'm like, that could have been slightly better. The the second and third one, I don't think the second one is, or I guess I don't think the third one is bad enough to give it like less than a 4. So, but I don't know if I would, you know, put the second one at like a 4.5 or 4 because I still like the second one like as a sequel. I just think it's a little let down by the third one. But yeah, I think that I could definitely see like the upgrade in animation between the first and the second one. Like to me, the second and third one feel a lot more closer in like animation style than the first one does to the other ones. But even given like the limitations, I still think the first one looks the best. Like I think they had it down like the visual style a lot more than they do with like the second and third one. Um, and I'm honestly always every time I watch the first one, I'm always amazed by like the fluidity of the animation and even like
Yeah.
like the animation of the camera. But yeah, I that would be my ranking. I think overall the trilogy, like as a whole, is fine. Like I've seen worse. I've seen worse trilogy like
Way worse.
collections of movies. And I think this one really stands is in that like the quality is not like there's not as wide of a gap for me, at least in terms of quality, like movie to movie. But yeah, I the third one is not my favorite. I do like the ending. Like every time I watch it, I appreciate the ending more and more. But to get to the ending, you have to get through a lot of stuff that's maybe not as great. The second
A lot
one
of wish
is
wash.
good in that it's doing something different, but it kind of struggles to stay in line with the core ideas and themes of the first one. But yeah.
Cool. Leo, what are we watching
All
next week?
right. Next week we are watching the 28 duology, as I call it. Obviously, there's a third one, but hasn't been released yet. So we're watching 28 Days Later from Danny Boyle, and then we're watching the sequel 28 Weeks Later in preparation for 28 Years Later coming out. So stay tuned for that.
Let's
I've never
go.
seen either of them, so I'm excited to watch them for the first time. Uh, I've told you that I'm not a very big fan of zombie flicks.
It's not a zombie
It
film,
is, but
bro.
anyways,
No, it's not. If you watch the film, you'll know.
but I'm excited because I've heard good things about these movies, so hopefully I will enjoy them.